What is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of the IOST podcast. Wait a minute. Where's Q?
Who?
What's going on, guys? I'm all the way in Virginia. You knew that already, though. What's going on? How you guys doing? I miss you.
We miss you as well. We're doing well. Got some new beers on tap here. We're drinking some New Belgium Fat Tire at the moment.
Yeah, bro. Missing out.
Happy July 4th to you and to everyone out there.
Yeah, to you and everybody out there as well. I see that you waited till I left to get the new beers on tap, but that's okay.
Hey, I think they were out of stock of beer in Pennsylvania, so what can you do?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we got a packed episode today. We're going to talk about some team updates. Obviously, we like to get those right in the beginning of the episode. We have a Binance charity partnership. We have a on-block trading platform announcement, bi-weekly report, X angle. We have comments from last week, Dimitri's desk, as always, a G Game partnership, Coldlar wallet, and we're going to get to a Jimmy tweet at the end of the episode. So we have a packed episode as always. Are you guys looking like you're going to get this done even without me?
Yeah, I think we'll figure it out. Dimitri's, learning how to do this without you, but I think he'll make it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just figured out how to use the mic, so finally, my voice can be heard.
Yeah, you got a new mic too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had to upgrade the desk.
Demon got like a streamer mic. It's like he's a rapper.
Dropping beats,
Yeah.
dropping hard Dimitri's desk beats.
I just
on us.
got to learn how to use autotune more.
Awesome.
Then I'll be off to the races.
Makes sense.
Gotcha. All right, so let's start with the Q2 contribution report that we sent out today. Or are we in the process of sending that out, or where are we with our Q2 contribution report, Mike?
Yep, we got to add one thing in for Ledger, actually, which is still coming along. Then we'll be sending it out today. So by the time you guys are listening or watching this, it will be out. We're obviously excited to get those results.
Nice. And so we also have the rewards being distributed for June, correct? Those went to the wallets. I know we always have the running tally of the wallets that we need to send to, and you know them by heart. So
I do, yeah. So at the end of every month, essentially, to be as transparent as possible, Sutler Ventures, we go out and we take all of the essentially block rewards that we earned in the previous month, and we distribute them to wallets, which each correspond with basically a segment or a category of how we're spending the rewards that we're getting because of the votes that you're giving us. So the main category is Sutler Vest, where about 45% is going to go towards investment in IOST related projects, other third parties within the IOST ecosystem, as well as marketing of IOST, marketing of Sutler Ventures. We've got Sutler Team, which is about 30%. That goes to paying us for the hard work and kind of staying on top of the news for you guys. We've got Sutler Tech, which is essentially what allows us to run the node server every month. So cost for that's about 15%. And then there's a final category called Sutler Legal, which is basically just kind of a reserve fund. Obviously, cryptocurrency in the U.S. versus other regions is kind of more up in the air from a regulatory standpoint. So by having this small amount of basically about 10% there that we stake and are able to kind of hold back, it allows us a nice legal budget in case there's ever something regulatory happening in the U.S. that will allow us to keep this node up and running for everybody. So those went out. You can go to the Sutler account on IOST ABC or otherwise, and you'll see those rewards going out, or those transactions going out, basically.
So do you guys use IOST ABC, or what other explorers are out there that you guys know of?
I mean, seems like
That's the main one?
ABC is the one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the main one. I'll use Token Pocket sometimes. Like, they've got a recent transactions tab that can be helpful. The only thing I don't like about IOST ABC is I don't think the transaction classifications line up with some of the other block explorers on other protocols. So it can be a little funky, but that might just be native to IOST as well.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, cool. Well, I just kind of wanted to get that information. I use IOST ABC. as well. So, well, let's hop into the episode here. I've got a Binance. So this was an announcement made like I think a month and a half ago. The Binance Charity Foundation. Do you guys remember Jimmy talking about how we were, or IOST was going to be a part of that little conglomerate of businesses that are, in the BCF?
Right. Yeah. Tron's in it. I think there's a couple others. Yeah.
I think it's up to like 47. I'll throw the graphic up on the video here, but basically this is like another integration into that. It's also a launch of what's called the Pink Care token. It's going to be a stable coin. So I looked into this. It's pretty cool. Basically, suppliers are going to bid for a chance to provide these villages in Uganda. It's all in Uganda. I don't know why the country is Uganda, but it's in Africa. It's in Uganda. Suppliers are going to be able to bid to provide these feminine healthcare products to these villages, and one token is a year's worth supply of these feminine healthcare products.
Wow.
So once the supplier is found and the amount is set, the Binance chain is going to mint these tokens. One token is going to be worth one girl's full year supply of feminine healthcare products, and then those are sent to the girls, or whoever is obviously they're not all going to be proficient at using their crypto wallets, but whoever it has it, and then the girls or their beneficiary kind of get these tokens, and then they are able to send it to the supplier.
Interesting.
At which point the supplier sells it on the Ugandan Binance exchange back to Binance, and it gets burned. Does that kind of make sense? That it's a stable coin pegged to the actual asset of the feminine healthcare product. So once the actual price is set by the supplier in Binance, then that is the actual it's 1 year supply. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wonder how if there's going to be any barrier for these women to use tokens to make this happen, because I don't know how tech savvy they are,
right,
or how complicated the whole process is. I don't know if there's maybe an organization or somebody who's handling that for them,
the education,
maybe education, or they actually do it themselves. So
and that's awesome that they're doing that. Binance is just at first I feel like when I heard about the Binance charity piece, it was kind of like, okay, well, let's see if anything comes of this. Is this just like a PR move or a way to offset taxes or something like that? But they're obviously out there actually doing things that seemingly are obviously very important, and they've launched and have seemed to be putting a lot of focus on Africa, right? So it kind of goes back to that banking the unbanked, that that whole conversation and kind of niche of sorts that we've talked about, but to do it from the charity side is awesome, which, to set something up with suppliers and specific token tells me as well that Binance, has a significant size of a team behind them handling this. So, obviously, props to Binance, props to IOST for, not for just kind of saying we're a part of it, but actually, being a part of it here. Hopefully we get some more donations out to that charity, and hopefully everything with this new token is successful.
Yeah, I think to your point, Dima, there needs to be an organization that's there helping them introduce this or educate them. That's totally necessary. They're not going to be fully proficient, but this is kind of like the use of blockchain, right? You're honestly you're kind of getting rid of. I'm sure there was a ton of corruption, ton of inefficiencies that went involved in getting these people products in these villages before they actually got them. But that's what blockchain's for.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, so Dima, I think you got the next one, right?
What do we have next? Oh, Unblock trading platform. Right.
Unblock.
So this obviously came up, before. The recent announcement was that they did an upgrade to Unblock 2.0, continuing to improve essentially the platform for digital asset trading. Sounds fantastic. So what it is essentially helps users to access dApps without having much of a barrier of entry. So basically, it's trying to bring in people that are not so crypto savvy and make it easier for them to use dApps, by just registering through, using their phone number.
You sound super excited about this. Is there a
Yeah.
is there a reason that maybe you're a little skeptical or something?
So the idea is great. The platform, they're doing upgrades and so on. The one thing is that once you actually enter the platform, there's really not much there. I'm not really seeing how you can, trade anything or use any of the tools that are there. Maybe it is possible that it's at the very initial stages. But so far, I mean, even if I click on the exchange button, it just, gives me like an error message that page can be entered.
So did they launch it too early or?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. They definitely might be doing PR moves and marketing too early. That's for sure. But it's great to have something like this. And once it's up and running and everything is working, that can be obviously great for the ecosystem overall, right? Because the whole idea is to bring in users that are not so crypto friendly into dApps and make it easy. But we'll have to wait until that happens. They're fairly new. This just started in April 2019. So,
yeah, I think the announcement came through the IOST general chat. It came through their Twitter and then to the general chat. That's where we saw it. And then I kind of linked Dima the exchange, and he's like, "What the hell, dude?" This
yeah.
But yeah, we're kind of interested to see what assets are actually going to be traded on the exchange. Like I thought maybe because it's on Block that the dApps that they already have integrated into their platform, maybe those are the assets that are going to have pairs. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Like the dApp token, or taking it one step further, could it be like skins or things from the dApps that you could earn? Or that would be cool. But it's like the thing for me is if it's not ready, don't launch it. Just kind of wait. So that's kind of frustrating. It sounds like it's disappointing.
I mean, you can launch it, but not necessarily probably blow it up in terms of marketing and be like, hey, check this out, this platform is meant to do this, here it is, and you go to it and then you're like, well, I would like to do those things that you mentioned,
right?
And the computer says error.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So check out the website. Everybody take a look for yourself. There's obviously a website and they've got their institutional investors and partners and whatnot there, but there's just, unless we're completely missing something, it seems to just kind of be a front end for what will be a platform that's needed in the future. Maybe there's some sort of issue or bug that they're kind of dealing with. But anyway, that's welcome to the new digital asset trading platform.
Another thing to keep in mind is that they don't have any private keys on these wallets that are associated with OnBlock. So would me or you go on there and trade a large amount of assets, being that it has nothing when we have access to dexes and things like that?
What if this just turned into a massive dark pool for people
that we don't know about?
Yeah, we don't know. It's just
maybe there's tons of volume that's being traded right now, but it's just hidden.
You gotta go to the code line and type in welcome to OnBlock or something, and there's just trillions of dollars worth of dirty
you have to
money
solve
happening.
a puzzle, to access it.
yeah. Connor, where you at, man? Figure this out. Nice. Well, I got the next topic here. So the biweekly report. Again, if this is your first time tuning in or your first time hearing about these biweekly reports, essentially, in an effort for IOST to stay in communication, stay transparent, they like to put out these biweekly reports twice a month for all of the users, investors, everybody out there. They go over things like mainnet statistics, number of dApps, social media growth. In this case, we've got some big announcements with ecosystem development. We've got OKX joining on, which I think we talked about a little bit on the previous podcast. It's really nice. It's on the IOST blog, so just medium.com/IOST. As far as mainnet statistics, as of July 1st, over 78 million transactions now. So coming up on that 9-figure number here pretty quickly. Over 327,000 accounts, right? So essentially your wallets, right, your accounts there, and just crossed the 30 number for dApps. So 30 dApps have been launched on iOS. Looks like Twitter growth, Medium growth are pretty steady. They've maintained numbers there. Looks like Telegram growth is up nicely. We got about 1,300. Telegram growth is about the same. It looks like most of the social media growth is the same there. So social media, we're maintaining numbers there, but obviously number of transactions, number of accounts, number of dApps launched on iOS are growing. One of the big ones that we're going to talk about on the podcast is the kind of the quote unquote partnership with IDE, which is in the Chain IDE, which is in the Biweekly report, as well as Zangle, OKX. So, real quick on the Chain IDE, that is one that I think can be easily misunderstood by those taking a look at this. So to break it down and reading from here in the Biweekly report, developed by White Matrix, an iOS partner node, Chain IDE becomes the first online IDE supporting Move, the programming language utilized by Libra, right? So Facebook's new cryptocurrency project, Libra. It enables developers to efficiently utilize this new language. iOS online IDE can support Ethereum Solidity and Libra's Move, meaning that data, assets, and other information among the three chains can better exchange. Powered by IDE, iOS integrated itself into Libra prior to other mainnets, making it possible to enhance our brand presence among 2.7 billion Facebook users. So obviously you see a tweet and it's like iOS is partnered with Facebook, or iOS has partnered with Facebook or whatnot, right? No one is really partnering with Facebook.
Yeah,
right?
It's actually funny because you look at the original announcement was in like Chinese or Korean. I think it was Chinese, and like that makes it even more look like it's a partnership with Facebook, because it's literally like all and Facebook and iOS.
Right. Yeah. So to be clear, essentially there's a programming language that Libra is installing called Move, and one of the nodes for iOS has basically developed something that supports Move that will allow theoretically dApps and developers to work between Facebook and iOS. Now obviously if Facebook doesn't work at all with any cryptocurrency projects, right, then it's kind of null, right? There's no, at the end of the day, Facebook controls it. They make all the decisions, right? So it's not necessarily like, hey, we met with Facebook, they love us, like, we're all gonna like work on WhatsApp together or whatever. Right. This is basically iOS positioning themselves in a way where they're trying to be at the front of the line with Facebook and with Libra, and obviously with all of the users on Facebook. Where potentially, maybe it's games, or maybe it's other, maybe it's just the iOS token in general, or, it's maybe it's some other parties within the iOS ecosystem that in some way work with Facebook. But it's obviously not, like iOS getting bought by Facebook or anything crazy, right?
Essentially, it's a bridge.
A bridge.
That's what they created. Remember at the time when Facebook games were like, the bomb. Yeah, the farm. There's a bunch of them. There's like a Mafia one, a bunch of like games that were on Facebook that were really popular.
That was kind of the genesis for mobile games. I feel like maybe I'm wrong here, but like once people started playing these mobile games on Facebook, it became like this huge deal. But maybe I'm completely off there. I guess the only question would be like, it seems like Facebook's dApps or applications, are going to be a while off from now. I don't think it's like today where obviously they have apps working with Libra. So that's my only question.
Yeah, and that was something I was thinking about today, where I think Facebook is saying 2020, but I would not be surprised if it takes until Q4 2020 or even 2021 for this stuff to get going. I mean, for those of you listening who are not in the U.S. or haven't heard, but like Congress, the U.S. Congress is pushing back and basically being like, stop development. You can't do this. Who knows whether or not they can actually like move forward with that or not. But point being, it's not going to be an easy road to launch for Facebook and for Libra. So
yeah, we had what France came out as soon as they announced.
Yep.
Then we had Australia that came out and basically warning people that they should not be using it if it's released. And then finally we have U.S. Congress coming out and kind of speaking out their mind, like that you guys should seize all the
right
operations or whatever related to Libra integration. It's just interesting because actually, if you read that letter, it actually talks about that Facebook puts US dollar in jeopardy by doing this. Like it's a national risk, and
because everything's pegged to the US, everything's pegged to USD.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's interesting though because I've read the first part of it because it caught my attention because of the fact that what they said, that it put risk on actual US dollar in terms of being the global dominant currency. And I was like, wow, that is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, USD is the global reserve currency. It's been like that for a while. So I wonder what these, congressmen, women, think.
Yeah. So basically you're saying, right, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like from the perspective of a France or in Asia or something, right? Are they worried that the U.S. would use a private company, i.e. Facebook, to develop payment rails for something that's pegged to the dollar, which, if you can obviously get billions and billions of people to use, will strengthen the peg, i.e. the dollar, and is kind of like a way for them to strengthen the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency? Is that the thought you're getting at?
No, not necessarily. Actually, you're saying the opposite. It's actually going to weaken the U.S. dollar as being the reserve, because what you're doing is you're buying a token that is pegged to the dollar that is not a dollar. So it's a token that's active.
The dollar's only part of that.
Right. Like you buy in the Libra and then it's pegged to the dollar, and then you're converting it into any other,
right,
whatever currency,
which is. Yeah, we'll have to get to it on the next podcast.
Yeah.
10 minutes on this.
Yep.
How do you guys think we're doing right now? Like doing it mobily for the first time?
I think we're good.
Not bad. Yeah,
we probably won't have you on again, but that's okay.
Yeah, true. Well, I didn't want to be on anyways. But just a quick thing before Dima gets to X Angle, because we got to run through this before the break. I did do some research on exchanges, and IOST Dex was a part of some of that research that I was doing, and just for the biweekly report section, it has picked up the amount of users that IOST Dex is getting. When it first came out, it kind of was hovering around 30, and then it kind of hit 1,000 when it released and people knew it was out. Now it's kind of it dipped, and then now it's kind of back around 400. So it's averaging about 400 for about the last 2 or 3 weeks.
400 users?
Yeah, 400 users.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
It's not bad at all. But go ahead, Dima. Take it.
All right, I do X Angle now.
You do X Angle.
Okay, I do X Angle. All right, so X Angle, the partnership that was announced actually as we wrapped up our last episode, right after we wrapped this up.
A second after.
Yeah, and this thing comes out, and we're like, wow, great timing.
I'm expecting out this one.
Yeah. So X Angle provides institutional grade reports of IST for essentially investment banks, venture funds, and investors. It's a company in South Korea. Essentially, IST is expanding, that side of business, and it's great because X Angle, if you go on their website, they provide essentially data, announcements, token burns, and anything that's happening to a given token that they have listed on their website. But more importantly, what they do is they put together these sophisticated reports that institutional investors look for. And right now, in crypto, obviously, people put this information together to try to tailor to institutional investors, but they're missing the sophistication that's needed, to tailor specifically to them.
Right.
What they're doing is actually IOST is going to provide data to X Angle and work closely with them on making these reports, and then essentially what's going to happen is they will develop these reports and send them out to their network of VCs, funds, and investors that they have in Asia, and essentially try to sell it to them basically. Or
Right,
whatnot.
right.
But another thing that's really good about it is that this is a third party company, which essentially if you have IOST put these reports themselves, it's different than if Xangle puts it together because they're third party. So it gives it like a third party objective perspective on what's going on with the given token to these funds and institutional investors that are obviously interested in participating in this space, but they might not necessarily have the transparency and legitimate data, to back up their decision. And this is something that Xangle is doing. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is great.
Is their analysis open to the public, or is it just for the investors that are part of that little group?
It is so the reports that I'm talking about, those sophisticated ones, they're not open to the public, but you can go to a website and take a look at just the general information that's available to the public. But the sophisticated one, the one that I'm talking about, that's not going to be available to the public because that's going to be just for the inner circle for those funds.
Yeah, and they're likely charging a fee for those investors, which is why they wouldn't release them to the public, because then the venture fund or the investment bank or whatever could just access it for free online.
Dima, can you pay for that?
Yeah, I got it. Hold on,
Yeah,
grab my wallet.
probably like $15K, $5K. Just throw it on the credit card. No worries.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it with Xangle or Zangle or whatever you want to call it. I think it kind of highlights an important point as well, and something that we should touch on, right? Like, I feel like a lot of times we kind of harp on the fact that we haven't gotten a ton of, say, like DApp activity or a ton of hype in North America for IOST. But when you look at China, South Korea, Japan, right? Like, it seems to me that IOST is absolutely killing it over there.
Right.
We were talking about this last week where, if kind of you put yourselves in their shoes, it's going to be a lot easier to make partnerships or get things done in an area where you feel more comfortable, right? Versus, say, if the shoe was kind of on our feet, right, and we went out to Asia and tried to get things done, there would be an extra kind of level of scrutiny or kind of a lack of confidence, just because the culture is different and you don't really know where to go or who to look to. So obviously, folks like us and Crypto Beetles and BitBoy and a lot of the other folks are doing that for IOST. But it's important to note that, like, a lot of the stuff that has been happening now since March, since the mainnet has launched, are things that other protocols, I feel like, either never get done or it takes a lot longer for them to get done. So, South Korea in general, you've got Xangle. We just had another announcement from KuCoin that, take a look at that. I believe that's on the IOST blog, but they're doing some really interesting things there with staking rewards and kind of the staking ecosystem. You have OKX that was a part of the bi-weekly report. They basically, like we said last week, went out and bought a bunch of IOST. So, all good things. Props to IOST keeping that rolling on that side of the water.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like a proxy like over here would make sense for them to like a trusted proxy where like they trust what they would say. So yeah, it's tough for them to get all the information kind of mobily or something like that. But we got to roll into Dimitri's desk here. Another great episode. You got a new intro.
Oh yeah.
That you have to let us know if you guys like. But yeah, let's head into it.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Dimitri's Desk, where we talk about price action that has been happening in crypto markets, where we are now, and where we might be heading. As always, we're going to start off with IOST USD. As you can see, we're still within the range that we've been talking about for the last 3 episodes. We did have an attempt to break out of that range just recently. As a matter of fact, when I was doing this episode last time, we were actually at the top of the range. We did measure the range as about 40% from bottom to top. We did make an attempt to break that 1.5, but the range still holds. So we're still moving lower within that price action between the 1.4, 1.5 and a penny. As you can see by the indicator that I've introduced on our last episode, which is called on balance volume. is still trending higher. So that's usually a good sign. What it does, for those that don't know, it calculates the volume on down days. So when we have these red candles, and then it calculates the volume on up days, and then combines that to essentially give you a perspective on what's going on with the volume visually in a line format. So we're seeing that the buying pressure is picking up for IOST. Ideally, what this indicator should do is signal possibility to break out of range. So something that we have here. Now, obviously you don't want to front run that. We need to see commitment from price action, but we are moving lower to the bottom of that range. So we did have an attempt, like I said, to break out of that range, but we did not get essentially a close, daily close above 1.5. Typically what happens when you break out of a range, price action will pump above that price and then retest it again to confirm that it is in fact support. And then from there, we break essentially higher. Let's jump into BTC USD. Interesting development here. Obviously, we did go higher very quickly, almost to 14K. As we discussed last time, BTC really gained quite a bit of volatility. We were up 20% in just a week. Now we have actually came down all the way to test that 10K level that I was talking about. We actually overshot a little bit on the downside, which is something typical when you see price approaching support. It is possible that it might actually overshoot a little bit on the downside. There might be a lot of stop loss orders in place right below the 10K, which essentially, when you're holding a buy position and you have a stop loss, once the stop loss gets triggered, you initiate a sell order. So if you have a lot of orders that are set up right below 10K, and the price dips a little bit below 10K, it triggers that selling pressure, which causes this overshoot in price. So we did get that. Right now, we're above 10K, 10.7. We'll see how this daily close is going to happen. In terms of OBV, we're still looking strong. We're still essentially on an uptrend for on balance volume. The moving averages look good. We're at 382 Fibonacci retracement right now, essentially testing that support of 10K. The next one is going to be 0.5 that I mentioned, which is around 12.3K. So we'll see how BTC is going to perform against USD right now. Not much to worry about. We're still within the same trend. We just had a little bit of a pullback, which is essentially pretty good. Now moving on to ETH USD. Interesting development here. Last time we discussed the fact that ETH was in a range that I spotted, and then we broke out of it. Then we tested it, and it looks like we're testing it again. That breakout out of the range between the 224 and about like 288. I mentioned last time that I was looking at on balance volume, and I was not convinced because the on balance volume was not popping off like the price was. Now we're actually seeing a little bit of a movement in OBV, where essentially it should be confirming that we are in fact breaking out of this and continuing the trend of ETH going higher against USD. But we need to see more conviction here. We'll see. We need to see how this daily close is going to happen on ETH USD. Are we in fact going to hold this? There's a 50-day moving average in play here as well. So I'll be watching OBV again very closely for ETH USD. ADX, I just threw that in here just so you can see it's our range indicator. If it's below 20 or a little bit above that, not a big deal. All right. And the last one, before we wrap this up, we have EOS USD. Also interesting development here. We dipped below the 50-day moving average as the price moved lower. And we have on balance volume that's actually within a range, which is interesting because if you have on balance volume within a range, then the buying and selling pressure on a daily basis is technically ranging. ADX is actually confirming that we are below the 20 mark, which signifies a range. So it'll be interesting to see how we're going to hold this level right here that I have outlined, which is 585. We tested $5 a couple times already. or we're getting close to it. I would be looking for OBV to start picking up and breaking out of this range that I have outlined here, as well as having the price action getting back above the 50-day moving average. Because as long as we're below the 50-day moving average, it might signal still downward pressure. And then, of course, ADX has to pop above 20 to signify that the fact that we're not in range, we are making moves up or down. BTC dominance has been performing outrageously good. As you can see on our favorite chart that we always talk about is BTC dominance. We've reached all the way up to 63%, and as you can see, everything else was dropping. So again, like I mentioned last time, be very careful when you trade alts against BTC because of the BTC dominance. It is still in play. We've dropped down a little bit since the peak at 63% to 61%, but essentially we're still on that trend until we see the rotation. Trading alts against BTC might be dangerous. And as I mentioned, before as well, the rotation is going to happen when volatility in BTC is going to slow down. Right now, a lot of traders don't see a real need essentially to chase volatility outside of BTC. So what they're doing right now is they might be stacking up on BTC in anticipation that once BTC slows down in terms of volatility, it's going to stop yielding essentially the percentages that we've been seeing lately. Then the traders will rotate into alts to continue to chase that yield elsewhere. But until that day, we're still essentially looking for more dominance in BTC and alts struggling against BTC. All right, guys, that's it for today. Please leave comments, any feedback, any coins that you'd like me to chart next time are more than welcome. And I'll catch you guys next week. Happy trading.
Damn, that was fantastic, Dimitri. I love the intro. I mean, you're getting professional with this.
Thanks, man. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell button, write a comment, hit that like button.
We're doing these for those that don't know, we're kind of separating these videos now, right?
Yeah. So I'm doing them kind of a little bit standalone. I'll release them maybe a day before we do the podcast, and then we'll include them in the podcast as well. So pretty excited. Obviously it's going to be dependent on the community of what they kind of want to see. I'm just giving them base in terms of like the indicators that I use, the charts that I put on. So, feedback is very valuable at the early stages. If you guys want to see something, different in terms of tokens or pairs, like we did last time,
right,
where we paired everything up against BTC, definitely, provide that in the comments
Dima's trying to get YouTube famous. That's why he's yeah, there was EOS, Bitcoin, and Ethereum on this last one as well as IOST, obviously. So he's definitely breaking those out. Speaking of smash the likes, we got comments from last week that we want to get to. Nora in OG here says, guys, this podcast gets better and better. Smash the likes, viewers. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Nora. Nora's kind of like one of our most continuous commenters. So thank you for that. Stringer Bell wants some swag, Mike.
Yeah, we got to get Stringer Bell some swag. I think Stringer Bell reached out to us in Telegram. So let's see, what was that, 5 days ago? Yeah, so the swag is coming. It's been a busy week here, but we'll be sending it out. No worries, Stringer. I think we've got the XL for you, but either way, we'll make sure to follow up there. Q, is Nora like your mom or something? Like every week. Every week, just smashing that like button.
That's my burner account.
Oh, gosh, that makes sense. Yeah, gotcha.
Is it why you think she's my mom because her last name's Perez?
No, I didn't say. Moving on.
Wow.
Moving on. What else we got? Any other comments?
Yeah, we got MetaCrypto1. He says, well done again, Sutlerites, which a nickname I love. He says, in terms of exchanges, OceanX has IOST. Do you think U.S. investors can use OceanX after September? Now, I've never even used OceanX. Do you guys know anything about it? And should other U.S. exchanges or should other U.S. exchange users be concerned with other U.S. exchanges shutting down service?
So, just as some context, right? I think the reason this comment brings up September is because that's when Binance has said they will kind of make the switch between the current platform to then having, Binance Global and Binance US, I guess. We still don't really, as far as I've seen, have good clarification on how long that process will take. Will it be immediate? Knowing Binance, I would think it'll be pretty smooth. They're not going to just kind of let all of that U.S. trading volume go to other exchanges. They're the largest crypto exchange. I would imagine it's pretty smooth. As far as OceanX goes, it looks like, Dimitri, do you have some data here?
Yeah. It doesn't look like a big exchange at all because, looking at their just volume, they did 32 million compared to other exchanges. Right. One of the biggest tokens that they actually get the volume on trading is VeChain. VeChain BTC, which is interesting.
Maybe because the Walmart announcement that came out for VeChain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that might be why.
So is 32 million daily?
That's 24 hours. 24 hours.
24 hours. And what's like a comparison? Like, what is, obviously Binance is going to be a little bit crazy of a comparison, but what's like around there?
Yeah, hundreds of millions.
Yeah,
they're not small. 32 million is good volume, but it's not something to kind of write home about, I guess, right? You can hit the OceanX website, it loads. It all kind of depends on loads as far as like they're not geo blocking the US, right? Is what I mean.
Okay.
Not that like it's shitty.
No, I'm blocking you.
No. But yeah, it just, I guess it comes down to whether or not if there's any sort of KYC process, if they let those U.S. investors KYC. At the end of the day, as this regulatory stuff comes up, there's always VPN solutions and these kind of various things that are going to exist outside of those guidelines. So I don't think it's going to be a serious problem unless you're moving like a ton of money and you don't want to have it on the exchanges for too long. But we definitely need it definitely seems to be clear that we need a US exchange solution that's super easy for folks, be it Coinbase or Kraken or one of those, unless Binance US just kind of is smooth and easy, but obviously something other than that would be nice too.
Yeah, definitely. So those are all the comments for the week. If you guys want to leave a comment, that's awesome. That helps us out a lot, and we love discussing on the podcast. It gives us something organic to talk about. I think it definitely gives the best reactions, as we saw something not loading. But anyways, so I've got G Game as an announcement here. iOST and G Game. This is one of those announcements like you were talking about with Asian kind of focused platforms. Where we don't know exactly like how important this announcement is because we don't know much about G Game. It looks like this might actually be Korean. So basically, G Game has X amount of users, somewhere in the vicinity of 100,000 users. They've put out like 20 or 30 blockchain based games, and they're partnering with iOST to bring iOST into that community of 100,000 users. One thing that makes me think this might be bigger than I originally thought was it looks like they're going to have a token or do have a token, or from this announcement, I can't really tell, but it says platform features 20% of the profits go into the dividend pool, which is divided among players with stake tokens on a daily basis. So that kind of has what Item Games is trying to do on EOS, where you have this big Steam-like store of games, and people that are transacting between them. There's some transaction fees if you're like trading items and such, and stakers are getting a percentage, what would be 20% here, of all of those transaction fees. So it'd be like if you're staking on Steam and you receive a portion of those fees as a staker. So it's definitely interesting. It says G Game has more than 40 games across a wide variety, including puzzle, action, and educational games. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I like it. If you can quote 100,000 users, that's always big to bring in, especially if they're already using the games on your platform. That obviously helps those game developers on iOST right now, or those that are kind of looking at iOST versus other protocols. It's no different than a Berm, or it's no different than Endless or any of these other dApps, right? If you can bring users, it doesn't just help iOST, it helps the entire ecosystem of iOST, assuming that there are parties like an OnBlock who kind of make it easy for users to go between dApps or go between services on the protocol. It increases the need for things like OnBlock or things like the OnBlock exchange to be functioning really smoothly. Because if you're somebody who, I'm not sure if G-Game has been in crypto already or not, but if it's just gaming, right? And you're basically bringing in a new user to crypto in general, and iOST is the first thing that they have access to. Everything has got to be super smooth, or it's going to kind of be that like first reaction of just, well, I don't know what this is, so I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to feel stupid or screw something up.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Dima.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to evaluate it or learn more about it because there's no English option on their website. That makes it a little bit difficult, but everything that Mike said, I agree.
This kind of reminds me of like us building a little town, and like honestly, a town, like you need so many things for it to function, right? Like you need so many professions for like everyone to function correctly, but you're not interacting with everyone in the town at all times. And I feel like that's what this is. It's just like we may never even step foot into G-Game's like platform ever, but if they can bring users to iOST and they can do what they're doing over there, essentially, it feels like a net win for the town of iOST. It's funny that something so important we may never even interact with.
As the king of metaphors, I approve of that metaphor. That was good. That was really good. We're increasing the overall GDP of iOST.
But we don't go to outside of a town.
No, we're like the crazy guys that like never leave the house. Yeah. We're just doing our own thing, like commenting on the internet about like all the new people moving in.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Well, Dima, in iOST land, we don't even get to live next to Mike too. So take that into
consideration.
consideration.
Man.
Yeah, I think I had you guys removed actually. So next time you log in, all your property's been seized. So, no, just kidding. That's impossible. Decentralization. Sorry.
Decentralization.
All right, moving on to the ColdLar wallet. So it's been nice to see some more wallets popping up on iOST. Obviously, we launched with pretty much Token Pocket. Token Pocket's great. I use Token Pocket, love it. But you always want choice in this kind of thing. So we saw. Was it Pure Wallet come out from, I believe, iOST ABC, and now we have ColdLar Wallet, which really, from a marketing standpoint, has a big focus on security, which is always good to see. Last thing you want is to store, your crypto assets with a wallet that is not secure or has, security issues of some kind. So that's a big focus for them. Essentially, they are a self-proclaimed leading security service provider by utilizing both cold and hot software and hardware wallets. So it's another one just like I can't remember the name, but I think it was a Japanese hardware wallet that started supporting iOST. So it's another one like that. They've got hot and cold wallet versions, essentially software and hardware wallets that are now available. So good to see them onboarding iOST. It's the same deal, right? If I'm somebody who ColdLar was my first wallet, and I go and I log on and I check out my Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden, whether maybe there's a pop-up or something like that says, "Hey, iOST now supported." That is just another way for iOST to market themselves, for free to a handful of users. So always good to see, additional wallets, especially ones with a focus on security coming into the fold, basically.
Yeah, I'm just reading here that back in 2017, at the end of 2017, they completed a round where they raised $10 million in US dollars.
Nice.
To basically
with investment from Bitmain and Huobi.
Yeah.
So they're no joke. To get investment from Bitmain is pretty serious. Obviously, Huobi's a big player too. So, as you can probably tell, we don't use ColdLar at all. But they seem to have a lot of things going on. It's not just kind of a new wallet strung together. That they've been around for a few years now, and adding iOST seems to be a nice addition there.
Yeah, in Q3, right? That's
Q3.
What they should,
Yeah, gotcha. So Q3 2019.
Yep.
and it looks like they're based out of Beijing as well. So, to your point, Jimmy's doing a lot of work over there. The team's doing a lot of work over there. So that's awesome. Gonna point out too, G Game's Chinese. So, I know I said Korean, but that's just me being ignorant. But anyways, all right. So the last bit of news, do you have anything else on Cold Lock before we move on?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So we had a late night tweet. I don't know if it was late night, but it sounded like a late night tweet that one of us have put out. So we have a Jimmy Zhang tweet that it's not very serious. It's we're just ending the episode on a fun note here. It says, fiat has value because it's backed by government's credibility. Government's credibility plus power plus army are backed by consensus. Bitcoin's value is backed by consensus. Think before arguing against Bitcoin's value. Value and power in this world is about consensus. And then he goes on to say, and storytelling. So yeah, all the store value and power in this world is backed by storytelling and consensus. Some carry a little bit of utility too. So I'll throw that tweet up for those of you that didn't follow. What do you guys think?
I like it, man. I feel like a lot of CEOs or founders of cryptocurrencies, like there comes a point when they don't want to just keep shilling their project, so they kind of go above and beyond, and this is what Jimmy was going for here. Just like, yeah, I don't know if it was a late night tweet like you said. It certainly sounds like it, or at least he was doing some deep thinking about the world and Bitcoin in general, maybe during a Bitcoin pump or something like that. But to me, it's basically like, it goes back to, for example, the kind of classic metaphor that you get with the US dollar, where the kind of storyline will go, well, Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, it doesn't have any value, and the person who likes Bitcoin will say, well, the US dollar isn't backed by gold anymore. They took that off, and decades ago. It's backed by the almighty power of the U.S. government and the U.S. Army, right? So that's kind of what he's getting at, right? Where obviously government has control over the currencies that are able to be transacted in its kind of sovereign state, and through storytelling or just through this kind of power that the government has, they're able to say, hey, we believe in this, and the consensus comes from the people within that country, believing that is the case, or at least going on alongside the government and transacting with that currency, to basically come to consensus with the government that, hey, yes, this has value. So when it comes to Bitcoin, I think his point is that if you look at Bitcoin today, 10 plus years later, it's at a point now where I think it's very, very difficult for non-crypto folks to argue that no one uses Bitcoin or no one believes in Bitcoin, right? It's talked about on mainstream media a lot. Millions and millions of people own cryptocurrency, and millions more at least know about it or what it is. So it's starting to reach that kind of tipping point, it seems.
Yeah, and add to your point about that consensus, I love the explanation. I agree about it. And in US, we really don't have a problem that other countries have, where essentially the consensus is forced upon people hard, where they're forced to use that currency and they can't take that currency out of the country, and they struggle with the inflation rates that are crazy, and all these negative things that impact their everyday lives, essentially. So that is a huge gateway for them to use something like Bitcoin, where they're like, hey, listen, I don't want to be part of this consensus that is being forced by whatever military or whatnot. I can safeguard it myself by actually moving that capital into something else. So I think that's where the value really comes through. But I love the tweet.
Yeah, I love the tweet too, and I honestly want to hear from our community too. What do you guys think as far as for or against what Jimmy's saying? I don't know where this quote actually came from, but it just came to me while reading it. But it said something to the effect of power is where people believe it lies, essentially. So anything that has power, it's because people give it that power. If people didn't come to consensus like he's saying, there wouldn't be any power in that individual or that contractor or what have you, that currency. But that's a cool little tweet that we ended with. So please let us know what you think about it. I think we can debate it in Telegram as well as next podcast. I think that would be a fun time. You guys got anything else before we head off here?
Anything?
No.
I think we're good. Obviously, from a price action standpoint, it's nice to see IOST keeping up.
Yep.
We got lots of beer to go through over here, so until next time.
On my way.
And then we're gonna celebrate 4th of July. So,
Yeah.
Happy holidays to all the Americans.
Yeah, happy Independence Day
Yep.
to everybody. Happy July 4th. Eat lots, drink lots. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and to all of our followers that are Dutch, we're following the game right now. Hopefully you guys win so that we can have a friendly competition. I know a lot of guys in the chat from the Netherlands. So good luck. You guys are playing right now or yesterday. But we have Iowa State Cash next week, so that's going to be a fun interview. Other than that, we're out of here.
Signing off.